Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am Navy and today we are going to read two stories from the subreddit r/prorevenge. These stories include a lawyer that got revenge on a landlord and a rude guy that got what he deserved. That being said, do not forget to like, subscribe and comment on what sub I should get into. So let's not waste any more time and get right into it. The first title being Got Rude Guy Arrested for Suspended License. In the mid-2000s, my friends and I would frequent a small billiards place in a neighboring town where you could rent a table by the hour or play per game. We would play a few games, watch whatever sports were on TV and have casual conversations. There were no problems and no drama until about 3 months of us visiting the place. A guy shows and takes our spot at the billiards table. No big deal. We were all chatting anyway. 20 minutes later, my friend lets him know we want to play the next game and the jerk is super dismissive. Needless to say, we didn't get in during the next game, so I politely let him know we wanted to play next. Another lady chimed in, she wanted the game after us, and the guy blatantly ignored me and the other woman. Some more time going by and the guy leaves the table. We see our chance to get in. We put in the quarters in and the balls are dispensed, except the green 6th ball. The guy took it to the bathroom with him. At this point it was ridiculous and we notified the manager. The manager noted it was 12:30 and they were going to be calling last call and closing, so he didn't want to make a scene by kicking him out. He gets us another ball so we can play. The guy comes out of the bathroom and knows we realized what he did. He smirks and proceeds to the patio to have a cigarette, bringing along his beer and the green billiard ball. The guy comes back in and throws the ball he was holding onto the table, hitting a few balls on the table and messing up our game. He goes up to the bar just in time for the last call. One of the friends I was with suggested we follow him home and each called the highway patrol to report a suspected drunk driver. 3 out of 4 of us agree, so when he leaves, we used our trusty Nextel push-to-talk phones and coordinated several calls to the police. We provided details like license plate, vehicle make and model and color, and mentioned the car nearly hit another vehicle, was swerving between the lanes and driving erratically. This was under a 15-minute plan. We had no idea where the guy lived but suspected it was close as he was visiting a neighborhood place, so our time was limited. The one guy who didn't notify the police tailed the jerk and called us giddy when a police officer pulled between him and the guy and turned in his lights to pull him over. The police blotter that week included an arrest for a guy who was pulled over after multiple calls of erratic driving. He wasn't arrested for DWI but instead for driving on a suspended license. Well, as you know the saying, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. How can you be a jerk and do stupid crap at the same time? I don't know, but after that I hope he got what you did and is not gonna be annoying someone else with this crap. And now to the next story, which is a bit long, but I think it is worth it. A lawyer's prorevenge on a landlord. Landlords are assholes, generally speaking. Everyone knows that. But if you think residential landlords are bad, they are nothing compared to commercial landlords. Landlords of commercial buildings are some of the cruelest, nastiest people I've ever come across. This revenge tale is about a commercial landlord and how I dealt with him. Back in the 90s, sometimes I'd go for lunch at this restaurant in the basement of our building. The place was called The Vault because it had a massive bank vault that had always been there, dating back to the days before the place was turned into a restaurant. The vault was so huge that they could sit a couple of tables in there and you could eat dinner surrounded by rows of old, gleaming safe deposit boxes. One day I was there for lunch and the owner took me aside. "The landlord's driving me nuts," he said. The landlord drives everyone nuts. I was a subtenant in the same building, sharing space with an older lawyer, Aaron, and the landlord was always causing us trouble. I'd already had a few run-ins with him and we hated each other on sight. In most jurisdictions, commercial landlords don't need court orders to get you out. Instead, they just change the locks and you find out about it when you show up and your key doesn't work. Every time our landlord had a dispute with anyone, which was often, he'd always threaten us to change the locks. And the restaurant owner says, "He keeps demanding all this stuff for extra rent and it's really weird because a lot of it's really old." The restaurant owner showed me a letter the landlord had served on him earlier that day. I looked over the demand and read a list of expenses for snow removal and parking lot repair and common area flooring and all kinds of crap going back years. I read it all the way to the end and there it was. The usual clause saying he was going to change the logs if the tenant didn't pay this and do that. But is he allowed to? I don't know, I do not really know the law. But anyway, from the wording of the demand, it looks like you've been fighting for a while. Why did you wait before consulting a lawyer? I asked one of the lawyers I know and he said it's hopeless. He told me the lawyer's name. It was a guy I knew with a shitty real estate practice who'd resorted to taking little legal aid cases to keep the light on when the market tanked in '89. You do something to make the landlord hate you? I asked. Because this is a bit over the top even for our asshole landlord. I think he's trying to grab as much money as possible before I go. Plus, he's giving me grief over the vault. He won't let you take it with you? Are you kidding? It weighs almost 100 tons and I don't need it. But the lease says I have to remove it and that I also have to restore the building to what it was before there was a vault. That would cost me a fortune. The asshole landlord says if I leave the vault behind, when I move, he'll sue. Send your lease up to my office and let me look it over, I said. I finished my lunch and when I got back to my office, the lease was waiting for me. It was just as bad as the restaurant owner said. The lease was a renewal of an assignment of a renewal. The original documents dating back shortly after World War II, when a bank first leased the place and the vault was installed. Somehow the landlord has suckered the restaurant into taking over a lease that left him liable to remove a bank vault at the end of the term. No big deal, I thought. The restaurant can default and all the landlord can do is sue a shell company. But when I got to the last page of the lease, there was a guaranteed clause. The restaurant owner had personally guaranteed the lease and he was on the hook for removing a vault weighing 100 tons and then fixing the place up. It would cost a fortune. The case was hopeless, of course. That was obvious right away. But then I thought about the asshole landlord with his demands and his threats and his rent hikes, and I asked my brain to do me a solid, which it promptly did. I picked up the phone and called the restaurant owner. "I'm freaked, right? You're calling me to say there's no way out. That's what my commercial lawyer said. But I just thought I'd ask. I can save you, but it's gonna cost." "How much?" $5 grand in legals and another G-note for the agent. "Agent? What kind of agent?" "Real estate. Send up a check, certified, and leave the rest to me." The check hit my desk in less than an hour. I went to Aaron's office. "I need a real estate agent," I said. "You buying a house?" "Nope." "Selling a house?" "Nope." By this point, I'd been sharing space with Aaron for almost 5 years. And he knew me pretty well. "You pulling one of your stunts again?" he asked. "Yep, but nothing that will get you into trouble." "I know a guy." Aaron knew all kinds of guys, and that's one of the reasons he eventually got this beard. But he knew a guy, and he gave me the agent's name and number, and the next day I paid the agent a visit. I told him what I needed and we agreed to terms. I gave him some papers and the cash for his fee. A few days later I was again at the vault for lunch. The owner saw me walk in and greeted me himself. "The landlord's here." "Why?" "For lunch and to be an asshole. Let's sit in the vault room so I don't have to look at his face." He took me to the vault room and with the door almost completely closed, we had a consultation while we ate pasta and drank red wine. "We are making demand on the landlord," I said, munching on spaghetti carbonara. "Demand? What are we demanding?" I pulled the document out of my briefcase and passed it to him while I sipped my wine. "We are demanding that the asshole landlord release all the restaurant equipment, all the fixtures, the ovens, the freezers, the ventilation, everything you need to run a restaurant." "But this exempts all that stuff. He can't stop me from taking what I want. The only thing that matters is the vault. And of course I don't want that." "You need the vault," I said. and we are demanding that he release the bank vault as well. We are insisting that he let you take it out within 7 business days.
You think you can beat the landlord with reverse psychology? You think if you treat him like a 2-year-old you can manipulate him into doing what you want?
We'll find out soon enough. He's had the demand for a couple of days now. The restaurant owner dropped his wine glass and it shattered on the marble floor.
You already gave it to him?
The restaurant owner said. He got up, swung open the vault door and called for the waiter to clean up the mess. Let's see what the landlord has to say, I told him, and we walked over to the landlord's table. The landlord was a big beefy man with a big appetite. He sat alone eating wolfishly and with his hands. My client needs an answer today, I said. The landlord looked up at me as he chewed noisily. I'm the vault's lawyer, I said. I gave you a demand the other day. My client needs an answer right now. He needs the vault for a new place and he's got to make arrangements. Your client can forget about the bank vault, he said, wiping his massive greasy hands on an already soiled napkin. But you can't do that, I said. My shock was finished and the restaurant owner's jaw dropped for real. The landlord laughed at us.
I'm the landlord, I can do what I want.
I'm gonna need that in writing, because my client might sue, I said.
Sue all you like.
The landlord told me, sue till you're blue in the face. He told me that I'd have a formal response by the end of the day. Then he told me to go away and let him finish his lunch. When the letter arrived from the landlord claiming ownership of the bank vault, I brought it downstairs and showed it to my client.
How the hell did you do that?
Trade secret, I said. The following month the restaurant moved out and the place was empty, and that was too bad because I had always liked eating at the vault. Now the restaurant was in a new location 20 minutes away. They called the new place the vault and they'd preserved the vibe of the old place. It was very similar except they didn't have the bank vault. The bank vault, all 100 tons of it, was where it had always been. In the basement of the building where I rented space. I showed up for work a little after that, and Aaron called me. The landlord's looking for you, he said. Oh yeah, what about? He's really angry. He said his deal fell through. Deal? He was supposed to rent the place downstairs to a new tenant, a bank or a credit union or something like that. They were supposed to come in to sign a lease, but they didn't show up. And what's that got to do with me? I said to Aaron. And I said the same thing again to the landlord when he managed to track me down a couple of days later.
I knew you were behind this,
he said, his jowls quivering.
I know it's you. That offer from the agent, it was bullshit. Just a trick to make me keep the vault so that your clients could sneak out of the place and leave the freaking bank vault behind. I'm gonna sue.
If you're looking for conceal, I think I'm gonna have to declare a conflict.
I'm gonna sue the restaurant and that agent and I'm gonna sue you.
He stormed off, but the landlord didn't sue. Of course he didn't. He didn't have a contract to sue on. Only a vague letter of intent that I drafted enough to hook a greedy landlord who was used to having his way. The offer he'd received was a non-binding, incapable of acceptance without the signing of a formal lease, which of course never got signed. When I left Aaron's place a year later, the downstairs were still unoccupied, with a sad "For rent" sign sitting in the window, starting to look faded. Me, that is amazing. You did well. Not well, fabulous. I think you couldn't have done it better. It's that good of an experience that I imagined the whole scenario in my head like a movie. You did it, you are him. You saved the restaurant owner and freaked the landlord also. Wow, just wow. Unfortunately, this is the end of the video. I hope you have a good morning, evening or night depending on where you are. Bye.